All right, we're live. Welcome back to the Slurve Expert Chat, analyzing the RBC Canadian Open Field this week. Got Steve from Fantasy Golf Metrics joining me on the line as usual. And yeah, that was pretty awesome Open Championship we got to see last week. We should talk about that for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, really interesting to see it develop like that, especially on Sunday with those two. I mean, you know, normally you have those runaway situations and it's not exciting, but they made the most of it. I mean, you know, Phil goes out, he shoots 65 in the final group of a major and loses by 3 shots. You know, or it's like unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I mean it's so weird. I mean, when Phil went out and shot that big round on Thursday, I thought I really was kind of worried we were going to see Phil win by 5 and it's just going to be boring.
Yeah.
But you know, Stenson just kept grinding away, and by the end of Saturday, I was like, wow. I was still shocked that Stenson put it all together. I mean, I'm not really shocked because I know, how good a player he is and how good a ball striker he is, but he's just never come anywhere close to doing that in majors. So it was cool. Like, it was cool to see a guy get over the hump like that who you know is a good player. And obviously, you know, I don't ever really feel that bad for Phil, but I mean, holy cow, man! Like, how to play that well and not win? It's just that sucks.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see the form that he had. I mean, you know, he's obviously played well for most of the year, hit a little bit of a low point, you know, then felt like he found something at the Scottish, which obviously is something he's done, you know, in the past when he actually did win. So I think he's going to be interesting the rest of the year, no?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this guy's got to win sometime. I mean, he's gone over 2 years now without a win. His last win, or was it 3 years? I can't even remember. Yeah, his last win was the 2013 Open Championship. So he's just playing. He's been playing solidly all year. I mean, he should have won Pebble Beach. Again, I don't ever feel that bad for Phil, but I mean, what Von Taylor did in the last round of the Pebble Beach was ridiculous. I mean, so Phil didn't play that well then in the final round there either. But a win is coming. So maybe Baltusrol. Maybe sometime in the playoffs or something, but
he won at Baltusrol 95.
2005, yeah.
2000. Oh yeah, not obviously not 95.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a course he's won on. It's a course he's pretty familiar with, obviously. So you never know. I mean, he's definitely going to be on the radar for DFS now.
So Canada, eh?
Yeah.
What do you like? You want to start at the top and see, you know, I mean, obviously there's only a small kind of premier field. You know, we can go through it pretty quick. I mean, are you going to be going one of the two, DJ or Day?
Oh, I don't know yet. It's always a tough decision when it's like this. You got the quality players up top, or you kind of go down for value. I mean, there is enough value in this field, I think, at the bottom and stuff like that. There usually is most weeks where you can fit in Day and still make a quality lineup. So it's really just a question of, you know, would you rather have Day and like a scrub at the bottom, or do you want, you know, do you have enough confidence in the guys in the 9K range to show up with a big week? So for me, I think if I'm going to go with Dustin or Day, I'm going Day. I just think that Jason Day has a little bit more motivation this week. I think he's really sort of felt let down by his last 2 major performances. I think this is a sponsor tournament. I think he needs a good week, personally. I mean, I know Dustin Johnson probably is here for some competitive practice too, but you know, he's won 2 tournaments in a row. He didn't finish too badly at the Open. I think this is more of a Day week for me personally for DFS.
Yeah, I can't, you know, when it comes to just numbers, it's really hard to pick one or the other. I mean, obviously, you know, Day has shown a little more staying power winning last year, but, you know, DJ's played her once. He's got that second place finish in 2013. And I'm talking about, you know, Glen Abbey only, actually, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Clear there. But I just, you know, it's going to be really hard for one or the other, but I would agree in terms of, you know, who kind of needs something right now. I mean, you feel like Day has been playing well but not getting it done like you'd expect. And, yeah, I think I would agree with you saying, you know, kind of needs it a little more than DJ does.
Yeah, like just going into the last major, I just feel like he needs a little bit more momentum. So, like if I'm going off one of those two, I'm probably going to go Jason Day. I don't think ownership either one of them is going to be like that highly over the other personally, but we'll see how the week progresses here. But I think underneath them, there'll probably be a bit more discrepancy between Kuchar and Snedeker. I think people will probably be a little bit more heavier on Kuchar. He's obviously had like the good form 3 weeks in a row running or whatever. Not 3 weeks in a row, like almost 3 months in a row running. So, Snedeker showed up last week. I don't know if this is like going to be another run of good form from Brandt yet or not, but he definitely handled the greens okay last week, put up a decent showing. So I feel like Kuchar will probably be one of the chalkier guys, but yeah. So I mean, I still think he's a good option though. I think that's probably where I'd start with my cash games.
Yeah, I have no problem, getting to Snedeker. I was actually putting together the the consensus picks earlier this afternoon, and I had a couple kind of lower end guys for my one and done, and then I said, you know what, let me really dig into Snedeker, because when it comes to one and done and the whole horse for course theory, I mean, you look at what he's done specifically at Glen Abbey. I mean, obviously he's got a strong event history overall, but specifically at this course alone, um, it's ridiculous. I mean, if you look at just the stats at this course, I have him at, sorry, where is it? Yeah, he's second in total money in those four events, third in points against field average, um, third in finish position only because DJ has the average of 2 with the one event.
Right.
And these numbers are against the tour, so anyone that's played over the last 4 years, not just the field. Not to mention he's first in par 4 scoring, first in strokes gained putting, 6th all time at this course. It's just when I saw those numbers, plus the fact that he's got a 22nd and a 20th the last 2 times out. Obviously the U.S. Open, beat him up a little bit. I don't get too worked up by a U.S. Open beating someone up. Like it just happens sometimes, even when guys are playing well because of that kind of condition. But
Yeah.
you go right before that, he did Dean DeLuca, he's 17th. So although the form maybe hasn't felt as good, it actually is pretty decent. And to consider that plus what he's done in this course, all of a sudden I went from I'm Brandt Snedeker to like actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about the miscut thing. And Snedeker's a guy, I mean, he's kind of like Kuchar in the way that once they get on form, they usually hold it for a while, and it's usually pretty easy to see with Snedeker. So I definitely agree. Like, I'm not worried about the U.S. Open cut at all. I mean, if you take that out, he's basically got 3 top 20s in a row.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, this course is like he's dominated. So
I mean, listen, I'll be fair. In the WGC, it's like he finished in like the top half basically, but it's not like it's not against the top people in the world.
No, and quite frankly, that's like he has not done well at that course. That's one of his. I think that might actually be his best finish at that course. Yeah. So that's a good finish for him. That's a strong finish. I mean, so again, yeah, he's not really like his form is deceivingly good. I guess is the way to put it. So he's definitely an interesting play. And like I said, I mean, Kuchar to me is going to be clearly. I think he'll be like 10% more owned than Snedeker, at least this week. So for GPPs, I think Snedeker is really interesting for sure.
And the other guy that kind of falls in that range, obviously, is Furyk. And listen, he's another course history guy. If you look at just his 3 starts at Glen Abbey, in 2008 he was 14th, in 13 he was 9th, and in last year he was 4th. So
yeah,
he hasn't been playing a ton. He's kind of like shown some flashes here and there, but I think now all of a sudden, you get him back playing a couple events at a place he likes. I think the whole range. I mean, the conversation of, Kuchar, Furyk, Snedeker at that level, and then the Day. It's really hard to kind of say one or the other.
Yeah.
Whereas in other weeks, I feel like listen, they're still the top of the field if you want to go with one of these guys, but it's something you can find a blemish, and with all these guys, like it's not. I don't see anything obvious.
No, exactly. It might even be a week where you just like you use like Snedeker and Furyk and you just ignore Day and Dustin Johnson. I mean, I know they're clearly the 2 best players, but with the way Snedeker and Furyk have handled this course, and even Kuchar, I don't know. Maybe this is the week in this weaker field where you just ignore the top 2 players, and it's definitely if it's ever gonna work, that strategy, this is a course you can do it. So. Yeah, well, we'll see. It's always tough. It's really weird. I hate the Olympics so much because this schedule is stupid. I mean, like, it's just this is like a blemish event in between two major championships. So
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to predict how some of these guys use it. Like I said, I like the motivation factor for Day here to have a good week, but if Dustin Johnson goes out and shoots like +2 on the front nine, or Jason Day feels like he's got like a sore back, who knows, man? Like you could see some withdrawals this week. I know we saw a few at the St. Jude like early on and stuff too. So it's the week before a major. A couple weird things might happen. So,
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's it's such a penalizing if you go with DJ or Day and they don't win, it's extremely penalizing this week.
Yeah.
Like they have to win. And what I'd argue what you said there. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason. I mean, if you took Kuchar, Snedeker, and Furyk versus Day and Johnson in a bet, you're not laying that much, is what I would say.
Yeah.
In my mind. So for the price difference and what it really means for the rest of the roster, because there are a couple guys I really like in the 8,000s. As soon as you drop off in there, two in particular. I'll tell you who I'm thinking, and you can kind of see.
Well, let's get to that, because there's one guy I really like there too. So why don't you name off the guys you like?
The two guys I'm looking at Castro and Garrigus.
Okay. I love Roberto Castro this week. This is prime Roberto Castro for me. So yeah, I'm glad to see we're both on him. I mean, we're both on Stricker last week, so maybe it'll work out well again this week. So
I'll tell you, man. All things aside, I love doing this at this night because obviously we both do a little more on the side there, but this is like the warm up week, and I feel like you and I we've been talking for long enough. We've kind of gotten a good feel of each other on how we've done things, and you can definitely see converging trends and where we're both on. And I feel like a lot of times when you and I are both on something, it's worked out more than it hasn't. So it's definitely, like I said, good to kind of see we're in the same direction.
Yeah, oh, exactly. I mean, I like it too, like from a personal perspective, because you always like to get someone else who does this.
Yeah.
A lot, the different perspectives. That's why I think the chats are good for people too. I mean, you get two different viewpoints, and yeah, like I said, or like you just said, when we're converging here, it's worked out pretty good sometimes. So let's dive into Roberto Castro here. I mean, this guy led the field in tee to green, strokes gained tee to green at the Barbasol last week. 4 rounds under 70 on a decently an interesting course maybe even a little bit similar to this week in a lot of ways. I like Roberto Castro as a player. I just like the consistency he's shown up this year. I know I've heard from a lot of players this guy's one of the most talented guys out there, and it just looks like he's getting it together. And stat-wise, I think he fits too. So there's a lot of things that I personally like about him. What trends we're showing up for you guys?
Well, I mean, straight off the bat, he's 5 of 5 over the last 2.5 months in terms of cuts. He's got a 2nd, an 11th, and an 11th. The other 2 cuts made were bottom of the barrel, kind of just made it through. But what you're saying in terms of the stats, that's another spot that he's in on. I mean, we have him basically ranked 5th overall. We have him ranked 8th in recent form, 10th in key stats, and 12th in course history. I mean, he's got a top 10 and then kind of like a 48th, 44th last year. So, he's 2 of 2 here. But then, yeah, if you look at his R data, that's kind of where a lot of the stuff jumped off that I was really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Just look up there. So, yeah, so he is, he's in the top 30 in strokes gained tee to green, top 30 in strokes gained approach, top 30 in par 5 scoring, top 30 in average birdie or better. And then one of the smaller things we got kind of identified was that proximity 100 to 125. That has some predictive ability in terms of DraftKings points. So he's in 5 of our 6 key stats. He's in the top 30 in the field. So that's when we check off our boxes, he's showing up. Basically compared to the field, he's lighting up. And these are not like real specific stats. I mean, this week we're a little more general. We're talking strokes gained tee to green, approach, par 5 scoring, birdie or better, like obvious stats for most weeks. But sometimes when you have a field like this and the numbers for the past event show it, you just got to try and go who's trending there, and he's just crushing all of them.
Yeah. I mean, he's. I was surprised when I started to look at his stats. I mean, I knew he was playing well, but the stats really almost suggests he's playing better than maybe he's put up. Like 22nd strokes gained tee to green. There's a couple others that really stuck out, but I'm just trying to look them up here quickly. I can't even remember now.
And
he's second in par 4 scoring. I mean, that's crazy. Like, so, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and he just missed. I mean, he's 40th in strokes gained putting, so he just misses being in the top 30, which is usually our threshold for a normal field event to like say, they check off all the boxes. So he's almost 6 of 6, and there's only one person that is 6 of 6, and that's the other guy I mentioned, who's Garrigus. So the only thing that concerns me is Garrigus has struggled at this course, but the form leading in is a little better now than it was the other times he's played here. So that's the only thing I kind of thinking of. Garrigus, listen, the stats are lighting up. He's obviously been playing fairly consistent, but I kind of saw the course history and it was like,
Yeah, let's look up Garrigus' course history because I want to see what kind of form he was coming into. Because this is a guy who's, I mean, when his tee to green game is on, I mean, he's usually contending. His putting is like, I mean, it comes and goes, but he just gives himself so many birdie opportunities when he's playing well. So, I mean, he was coming in here off a missed cut. It's kind of in bad form. He actually shot 67 to open last year, and then he went 78. So that's actually encouraging because if he's shooting 67.
I don't know if you've checked it out, but we recently started posting something on the site, like it's called a form data, and it's right in there, and basically you can look at the field at every single DraftKings points, all the tee to green statistics, and finish position leading into all of the events prior. So if you want to check that out, it has all like those numbers. And basically, yeah, what we saw is it was kind of average the other times he played here, and it's definitely a little better overall here, specifically in the putting. He is putting significantly different over the last 12 weeks leading into this Canadian Open than he was the other time. Basically, he's well positive, and he was negative every other year. So that's the one thing I kind of did note there. But, I mean, if you look at his recent form, too, I mean, 11th, 29th, 8th, 50th at FedEx St. Jude, okay, 4th at AT&T, and then 28th at Wells Fargo. I mean, the guy is playing extremely consistent. And, I mean, they're not, like, the highest end events, but they're all kind of average events. Obviously, the Barbasol and Barracuda are opposite field, but the other ones, they're kind of just standard.
Yeah. Yeah, they were pretty much standard events. I mean, I know when we first brought him up, it was at the Byron Nelson, and I was on him for like a top 20 just as a scrub play. I ended up finishing T4, and since then he's pretty much been on fire. So I like it. I mean, the other reason, and again, both Garrigus and Castro, they're not going to be popular plays this week because you got Emiliano Grillo's going to be popular.
Yeah.
DeChambeau's down there. He always gets some ownership. You go cheaper. You got McGirt at 7,700. So, I don't think either of these guys are going to be popular. I'm rolling Roberto Castro in all my lineups. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, whatever I'm doing. So, but even for tournaments, like, I don't think we're not talking about chalky plays here. So.
And just like you said, I had a guy that sent me his lineup like a direct message on Twitter, and it looks like a decent lineup. He fit Day in there, but yeah, he had Grillo at 8,500, and he was like, anything you change? I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily change this lineup, but there's two guys that aren't in it that I like, and I told him these two, so I'm like, listen, you can go with them. You could easily fit Garrigus or Castro in that spot, and I'm like, I don't say necessarily take anyone out, but I expect one, if not both of these guys to be in the mix this week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd be shocked if at least one of them don't like top 15 here or something, or contend really. I mean, they're just in too good form. I think the course sets up great for both of them. I think it's just a matter of we'll see if they put it together and stuff. So definitely two guys. I think that people will look at this week and go, I don't want to pay up 8,400 for Roberto Castro and Robert Garrigus. I got Kevin Kisner there. I can pay up for Chris Kirk, but the fact of the matter is these guys are playing better. The stats suggest they're playing better, and I mean, it's okay to pay up for names sometimes and go with big names, but I think the course and the event this week, I like both those guys a lot. So glad to see we are pretty much thinking the same way there.
And then, real quick, just in that range, I wanted to kind of have some conversation about him since I've been tracking him. It's interesting for me to see John Rahm. You know, yeah, he didn't perform the last two outings like you'd hope, coming off a 23rd and a third. But it's kind of funny to see him actually bounce back and make the cut. You know, like I like seeing that in a young player. Like, you know, they face a little adversity and they still find a way to make the cut. I mean, he is 4 of 4 cuts, including the U.S. Open. So I don't think the price is right. I don't like him as a play this week. I just kind of like noting, hey, you know, he didn't play as well, but he grinded it out, and I kind of like seeing that long term.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you gave me a choice to play Rahm or DeChambeau this week, I'll take Rahm.
Oh yeah.
And exactly what you just said. I mean, the guy knows how to grind it out already. I mean, he showed that. He's bounced back off a poor week at the Barracuda or whatever, and yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm not really on him necessarily this week either. I guess from a GPP perspective, but I just feel like 8,600 with the value guys we just talked about. Yeah, but I completely agree with that take for sure. Let's see. So we talked about those 8K guys. Yeah, we talked. So is it what after we get down under 8K, how do we sort through this mess? Because there's a lot of names in here, and it's all. I feel like the pricing this week is just all over the place. I mean, you got like Michael Thompson at 7,600, and then Jimmy Walker $100 more, and then you got just Adam Cornelison. I don't even know who that is. I fully admit I don't know who Adam Cornelison is. And then you got John Sandon $100 less. It's just all over the place. So. Who are you picking out of this sort of 7 to 8K range? Because like I said, it's strange the pricing.
I still got some love for Summer Hayes.
Yeah.
Still up there at 7,000. He's 5th in points gained against price. I mean, he hasn't gotten much respect for 7 straight cuts. I think it's a solid spot for him. I mean, especially he's averaging 65.8 DraftKings points over that time, so he's scoring. He's not just making the cut. I mean, 65.8 is pretty good for a guy that the price is generally around 7,000 or low sevens, maybe even upper sixes. So, obviously you said McGirt. I mean, his numbers are strong there, especially in terms of the key stats. That's one of the things he's had going for him. I'm not off of Colt Knost. Obviously, he was a little bit of a bust for me last week. Luckily, I didn't play him in cash. I thought it was still more of a GPP play. But
that's good.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't mind him this week again at that price. I feel like a lot of people maybe if they played him felt burned. I mean, the form is still strong. To miss the cut. I mean, he came out. He was on the wrong side of the draw as well. I mean, he had a real strong front 9 in the afternoon on Thursday, and I was all excited. Like he was 3 or 4 under, and then just kind of all fell off from there.
Yeah. I'm just getting some questions about Jimmy Walker here too, so maybe we should talk about him because he's a guy I really want to play Jimmy Walker this week. At 7,700, it's just it's kind of like an insult to be honest. I mean, it's a guy I know hasn't been in great form lately, but he's still 16th at the Bridgestone. If you take out the 2 major championship missed cuts, it's not that bad. So I think Walker's issue, and I was just typing this up, I think Walker's issue lately has really just been his driver has been all over the place. The rest of his game I don't think has been in horrible shape. It doesn't look like it.
No, he's top 30 in strokes gained approach and top 30 in that category of 100 to 125, so the scoring zone. But like you said, he is it's not even close. In the last 12 weeks, he's 213th in strokes gained off the tee, and that puts him 105th in this field. So
yeah. So there's some danger with Jimmy Walker. I mean, I'm not gonna side skirt or anything, but at the same time, I mean, the course last week could not have been worse for a guy struggling with off the tee. So because you hit the pop bunkers, you hit the gorse, you're done. I mean, and he shot 80 on Friday as a result. So, but the week before that, he actually had a pretty solid week. So, and that course is it's not similar, but it's a lot closer to what they'll be playing this week. So I don't know, 7,700. Playing him isn't the worst because he's only 7,700. So if he only gets you like a top 25, he can still pay off. And then he's Jimmy Walker, so he's got a little bit of upside too. So I don't hate it. I'm still debating whether I want to go down that road just because there's so much value. There's a guy above him, Harold Varner, who really kills the par fives and has been killing it off the tee lately. So I think I kind of like him this week too. But it's still Jimmy Walker at 7,700. So I think a GPP pick, if you're making like multiple lineups, is kind of where I'd slot him in.
Yeah, I mean, the only concern with me is I look at his points gain against price, and he's averaging 7.5 points less than someone priced at 7,700. So even though it seems like it's a discount, it's actually overpriced for how he's been scoring in terms of DraftKings points. That's the only problem I have. Like you said, there's so much value in that area.
Yeah, for the reality, and I guess the only thing I'd say about that is Jimmy Walker's playing. I guess he's been playing a lot of tough events, but at the same time, yeah, I mean he hasn't been performing. So, like the driver's taking him out of play a bit. So he's a risk. It's one of those bias things where you see Jimmy Walker at that price, you're like, wow, maybe I should just play him. But like I said off the start, he's definitely got some risks to him. But a guy I wouldn't be shocked to see get it together soon. So I do like Varner more, though. I mean, I like Harold Varner at that price tag more.
Yeah.
A guy right now is consistent off the tee, a guy who's been putting up more points, and a guy who scores on par fives. I mean, he's like top 10 in par five scoring. So this course could really suit up well for Harold Varner.
Yeah, Varner's a guy we have up there. We have him ranked 2 behind Castro, so we have
So there you go.
So definitely a guy we're on. And as I mentioned, I do gotta head out real quick, so I want to mention one more guy since we always like to.
Yeah, mention the last couple guys you want, and I'll shut up.
Yeah, I mean the last. Obviously, we do the high end, we do the mid end. So the one real scrub guy that we have showing up in the numbers is Wes Roach. At 6,000. I don't know if you've looked into him much right now. He hasn't played the course before, but we actually have him ranked 14th in recent form and 15th in key stats. So, over 5 events, 5 straight cuts, he's averaging 70.9 DraftKings points. That puts him second in points gained against price, averaging 24.4 points more than someone else in that range. If you look at the event by event for him, it's really solid. I mean, he's got some really high finishes. He's listen. He did an MDF last week at Barbasol, but if you take that out, he was 13th at Barracuda, 29th at Quicken Loans, 18th at St. Jude, and 18th at AT&T. Averaging almost 71 points at 6,000. This is a weak field event. I mean, there's a couple high-end names at the top, but for all intents and purposes, it's like another event. It's like the Barbasol. It's like the Barracuda. So I mean, there aren't many guys that came up really high that are kind of down in that scrub. We do have 1 or 2 guys maybe like 6,800 to 7,000, but he was the main guy that we kind of identified down in scrub value. That I was surprised at how cheap he was based on the recent form.
Yeah, no, I can definitely get behind that. I mean, a guy who's been putting up consistent top 20s. I mean, I just write off last week just because of consistency. So yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great call. There's definitely a couple other guys I can bring up in it later down there who might be worth a look, but he's definitely was the guy at 6K I know I had my eyes on. So no shock there. Glad to hear he works out for you guys too. Cause, yeah, I mean it's there's a lot of I guess weaker names down there this week that you got to pick and choose between. So anyone else you wanna throw out before you head or?
I mean that's pretty much it.
Right.
I think. Like you said, I mean, I could probably squeeze in a team with who you're saying. Could you do Snedeker, Furyk, Castro, Garrigus, Roach, and then another guy probably around 6,000? I believe those numbers pan out, and that's kind of where I'm at for a cash lineup. I mean, if I just double check that, it looks like.
Hey, you can throw Summerhays in there. Castro, Garrigus, Furyk, Snedeker, Summerhays, Roach.
There you go. So that's there's a high probability that's my 70 to 80 head-to-head lineups.
Yeah.
So.
That makes a ton of sense. I mean, so I mean, don't be afraid, like, for people listening to throw in a guy like Wes Roach this week, because it's a weaker field event. I mean, these guys under 6K have upside. So yeah, definitely like that approach. And are you gonna be on the chat for a bit?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on the chat side. So I'll
sure. So if you got any other questions for Steve, you listen, you just throw them up there. So, but I'll ramble on here for another 20 minutes or so and go through some other plays. So
sounds good, man. I'll talk to you in a second.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we can even just stick down in the Wes Roach range here quickly, because there's a few other guys that I don't hate. Kelly Craft's a guy who's been playing consistently. He doesn't have the high finishes that the Wes Roach does, but he's made a few cuts in a row. I believe he played pretty well at the Barracuda Championship. So he's not a bad value at 6K this week. Henrik Norlander, kind of the same deal. I believe he's made 5 cuts in a row. Just no high finishes, but again, 5,800. If you're making a lineup with like Day and Kuchar or Day and Furyk, and you want to use a couple of these guys, Norlander's a guy. And the other thing is Norlander's Swedish, so he's probably got a bit of a boost this week from watching Henrik Stenson play. That's never a bad thing, right? So I don't hate Norlander at 5,800. And yeah, so there's a couple other guys who for me look like decent scrub plays. I do think Wes Roach has more upside just because of the form, but they still, those two guys seem to fit that course history wise too. Camilo Villegas does have a good course history this week. Now I know Camilo withdrew last week because he supposedly had like a thumb injury. I haven't read anything else on Camilo's injury. He did drop out of the Olympics this week because of the Zika virus, not because of the Zika virus, because he wanted to keep his PGA Tour card. So Camilo's really focused on these last 4 events. He needs a lot of points. Got to get in the top 125. I like the fact he's played well at this course and the fact that he's coming in here super motivated. Assuming he's healthy, 5,800. That's a guy I'd target for GPPs this week down there. I think he's got a little bit more upside than the other guys I mentioned, Norlander and Kraft. So I don't hate Camilo this week. Just realize he's super risky because he may be a little injured, but I don't think it's anything major. So, but good course history there for Camilo. He's got a bunch of like nice top 20s and stuff at this event. Yeah, a bunch of. I think he's like 5 of 5 for made cuts at Glen Abbey, or 4 for 4. So don't hate him at 5,800. So we kind of touched on the guys in the 8K range. Yeah, no, he definitely dropped out just for the fact that he wanted to keep his tour card. So, and there's a lot of guys like that at this point in the year right now too, who are just chasing points because they need points to stay on tour. So pinpointing those guys who are playing well, never a bad idea because they got a lot of motivation. So. But yeah, David Hearn, I like David Hearn. He's a consistent player for DFS, been in good form, 7,900, Canadian Open. The only thing I worry about with David Hearn this week is just the pressure. I mean, he finished T3 here last year, so trying to duplicate that performance, that's a big ask. But, course-wise, these smaller greens, David Hearn's one of the most accurate players on tour, usually with his approaches, so it doesn't hurt him in that respect. I definitely don't mind David Hearn this week. I don't think he'll be uber popular just because of the value around him. So, again, I just worry about sometimes the Canadians with the pressure of playing in the Canadian Open. A Canadian hasn't won since Pat Fletcher back in, I think it was like 64. So, the Canadians tend to not do as good as people want to think they do here. So I'm not really on Dillette or Hearn a lot, but if I had to choose between Dillette or Hearn, I'd probably go Hearn. The course just suits him better. The Assman, Tyrone Asvagan, 6,700. For me, he's not really in play. There's just players I like better at that range, and actually, that's a good range maybe to move to now because we didn't really touch on that when Steve was talking. So there's a few players coming in really good form that I would take over Asvagan. Brian Harmon is a guy who looks like he's got his driver figured out. Top 30 or top 35 or better in each of his last 4 events. He's been driving it a lot better. He drove it well last week. And this guy's accurate and he's getting it in the fairway. His putter is really hot. He's really strong putter usually. 4 rounds under 70 last week. I love that. Harman can be a little hit or miss, but he's got that top 10 upside that when his putter gets going. So it's 6,800. I do like him on this course this week. And the other guy I really like is Chad Campbell. Always seems to play well when there's small greens. Got a great course history at this event. Just grab it quickly here. Where are you, Chad Campbell? That's not Chad. Yeah, so it's 11th last year, 16th in 2013. I really like this for Chad Campbell. I think I'd almost feel more comfortable with using Chad Campbell in a cash lineup than Harman. I do like both those guys coming in. I know some people are on Matthew Fitzpatrick, and talent-wise, you can't do better than Matthew Fitzpatrick. I just question the consistency with him. For a GPP pick, I think he's fine. I wouldn't touch him in cash games. Feel much more comfortable with Chad Campbell personally. Matthew Fitzpatrick is probably the most talented guy, but this week in a vacuum, I'll take Chad Campbell or Brian Harman, I think, over him. So I really like those 2 guys. And another kind of sneaky play, if you're looking for like another GP pick in that range, Jonas Blix. 4 cuts in a row, kind of sneaky. Didn't play well at the Barracuda, but that's, I don't really care about that too much. I like the setup for Jonas Blix too. The greens are a little bit faster. Should suit him. Usually putts well on bent grass. I just like Jonas Blix as a player usually. He's a guy who can really get it going, get you those 3 birdie streaks. And even if he finishes like 25th, usually ends up with a lot of birdies or some kind of bonus for you. So I do like Jonas Blix in that range for sure. So definitely some guys in that 68 to 7K range I'm kind of on this week. Let's see here. Kind of touch on some other guys in the 7K range because the 7K range is just chock full of plays. Like I said, when Steve was still on, there's just a ton of weird players in this range. One guy, if you really want a low-owned tournament play in the 7K range, and I'm talking like 1%, Ted Potter Jr. at 7,200. I'll give you the whole Ted Potter story here. About 2 years ago, he fell off a sidewalk. He was wearing like flip-flops, and the dude busted his ankle. And like it was so bad, had to get surgery. The surgery got infected or something. So he's been off for a while. So he's finally come back. He's playing on the web.com as like his warm-up. And he played 5 or 6 events. I think he's got 3 or 4 top 20s in a row on the web.com tour. He's got 2 starts on the PGA Tour to make, I think, around $350,000. This is his first start. So we know he's in form. We know he's got a lot of motivation. And quite frankly, he's not a bad player. So, I don't know necessarily what Ted Potter is going to do this week. I really like his chances for making the cut, though. And like I said, you want a 1% tournament play in the 7K range who's got like top 20 upside. Ted Potter, 7,200. That's a guy I would definitely think about this week if you need like a really unique play to fill out your lineup because he's got all the motivation in the world. He's been playing well, and he's got some experience on tour too. So a lot of things line up for him this week. He's like the last 4 times. I think he's top 20 3 or 4 times in a row. So Andres Gonzalez is another guy. I mean, this guy is just all over the place, but T4, T12 in his last couple events. He might have even played the Barracuda and finished well there. I can't remember. But he finished, I believe he finished T22nd at this event last year. So he's a guy I'm on for first round leader, Andres Gonzalez. Just another low-owned tournament play. Been playing well in that range. And Sam Saunders is another guy. This range is just chock full of guys. But Sam Saunders' last 3 events, T34, T21, T8. He might have even played the Barracuda. I'm just going to check. Did he play the Barracuda? He did play the Barracuda. So he's T9 at the Barracuda. So, he's coming in great form. And I want to say Saunders played it. And Saunders was T22 year last year. So, I know Daniel Summerhays looks like awesome value. And I know Colt Knost looks like awesome value at 7,100. I think I'd actually go Sam Saunders over Colt Knost this week. I think the form is a little better. I think Sam Saunders is a little bit more motivation. He needs those FedEx points. I really do like the form of Sam Saunders this week. I think he's coming in here hot and just gonna put up another solid week. Tee to green, he's been great lately. So, yeah, that range is really tricky though, because Summer Hayes and Colt Knost stick out so much that it's kind of hard to get away from it. Jonathan Vegas, another guy, been super good tee to green last week. I don't know if you missed the event, the Barbasol event last week. Jonathan Vegas opened with 65-60 and then shot 72-72 to finish like T4. So Jonathan Vegas is simmering for sure. I mean, that's an incredible little run there. Now, I think he's played this course once. Yeah, he played here last year and it was 48. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the short par fives suit him. He's been so good tee to green this year. It really just comes down to his putting and short game, which can kind of let him down. But, another guy in that range, he has upside this week for sure. So, like I said, I do like Saunders, but definitely could think about Vegas there for sure. Yeah, Hudson Swafford, another guy I've seen people on. Big hitter, guy who, again, usually scores well on the par fives. I kind of put him and Jonathan Vegas in the center of the same boat. Swafford opened with 2 really nice rounds and then bombed out last week, but the guy's been making a lot of cuts. I think he's up to 8 cuts in a row now, 7 cuts in a row. So, again, I mean, I think Summer is and Knost the most popular plays, but there's so many other ways you can go at the low 7K range. I personally, kind of like Saunders, my favorite, but the par 5 scoring with Swafford, the par 5 scoring with Jonathan Vegas, Ted Potter Jr. is coming in hot. I like all those guys. So definitely some plays there if you're looking for tournament flyers. For cash games, Summer Hayes probably looks like the safest, but I'm not sure if you can go wrong with any of those guys this week. I expect all those guys to play pretty well. So let's see if there's a few more guys I want to mention here before we wrap things up. Yeah, one thing to note about the course too, in case you're kind of late on your research or whatever, Glen Abbey's a par 72. It's about 7,300 yards, and so it plays short, and it plays short because the par fives are really short. Now, that being said, the par threes here almost all played over par last week, so I'm not like overweighting par 3 scoring, but it wouldn't hurt to check out the ranges that the par 3s are at this week and then kind of look if you're doing some research. The par 3s are tough this week. So the smaller greens, kind of tight landing areas, tough green complexes. It's something you can kind of look at. You can look at par 3 scoring. You can look, again, at the yardages the par 3s are at. So definitely something to take note of. Those par 5s, though, players are going to have to score on this week. For sure. So par 5 scoring some. Par 5 birdie or better, too. Let's see here. So, yeah, you have Siwoo Kim at 6,700. In case people weren't sure, finished second last week, lost in a playoff to Aaron Baddeley. He's coming in good form. He's a really good player, too. He's going to win on tour eventually. That's pretty good value for Siwoo Kim. And, again, I mean, there's so many different ways you can go in this sort of 75 to 67 range that you shouldn't have trouble fitting in like Day or Kuchar this week. So, yeah, Kevin Streelman for me is pretty interesting. I mean, it's a good price. It's just a matter of who he's paired with. I mean, we could say the same thing about Garrigus or Castro. They're overpriced, but Streelman's the same. He's priced a little bit up this week because he's coming in good form. I'd prefer Castro or Garrigus over Streelman for a couple reasons, mainly just because of the nature of the course. I feel like Streelman's a little bit better. A little bit tougher setup, but all things considered, I mean, another guy who at that range is going to be well underowned compared to the guy like Grillo or maybe even Kisner. So, yeah, coming in pretty solid form. But I'll still take Castro or Garrigus this week, I think. Although it's close. Streelman is a guy I don't use a ton of personally. Just I don't know, maybe it's just like a personal bias thing, but you can't argue with his form this week. We'll check his stats here quickly, but generally a pretty solid driver, just accuracy wise. Can sometimes struggle with like approaches and stuff like that, but I can't see him being horrible this week. I guess his par 5 scoring's a little bit lower than what Garrigus or you get with Garrigus or Roberto Castro, but so maybe for fantasy, I'd say he has a tad less upside, but form-wise is definitely in good form. So let's see here. If we want to bring up anyone else, we talk about Jimmy Walker. It's kind of like that white whale just dangling down there at 7,700. Again, I feel a little bit better about Harold Varner this week, which is sounds strange to say, but Varner's been in that good form. Going down, I don't hate my boy Sean O'Hare this week. Big hitter off the tee. Pretty good, pretty solid par 5 scoring this week or this year. He's a little bit hit or miss with the putter, but he's won in Canada before. I think it was on this course actually. Let me just double check that. Did Sean O'Hare win on this course? Yeah, he did win on this course in 2008. So he's coming off a long rest, which I like because he was playing a lot. He was kind of seemed like he was getting burned out. So it'll be interesting to see what Sean O'Hare does this week because his stats were kind of headed in the wrong direction. But before that, before his last few starts, he was playing solidly. So I like the length here with Sean O'Hare. I like he's good out of the sand. There's some kind of tricky sand traps here. I don't hate him at 6,600. I really don't. No one's going to be on him, obviously, but just because there's a lot of solid plays just above him. But a guy I like to use, it's just a matter of he's just got to put 4 rounds together. He always seems to go through a 9-hole stretch where he plays at like 4 over par and goes from like T8 to like T50. So a bit of a risky play, but a guy I don't hate this week at all. He's got the course experience, which doesn't hurt. Let's see. Take one more swipe through here. Patrick Rogers at 6,300. I'm just not convinced yet. He's had trouble with his driver too. We talked about Jimmy Walker. Patrick Rogers kind of going through the same issues right now. He's tempting, but I'm fine just waiting to see some form from Patrick Rogers before I use him. Same with Hunter Mahan. I mean, you can't use Hunter Mahan right now. I mean, I do not know what happened to this guy's game, but it's a little bit sad to see, to be honest, because Hunter Mahan's won me some money in the past, and to see a guy who's used to be so consistent play that poorly, a little hard to see. But don't use Hunter Mahan this week. Alex Jacob looks like okay value at 6,300. A guy who sort of pops up sometimes in these weaker fields. I don't hate him. He's hasn't had a ton of top finishes lately, but 6,300, I don't hate him at that range. Let's see, anyone else? Steve Wheatcroft is usually a pretty reliable cut maker. Another guy, Steve Wheatcroft, who's probably really needs some points right now, so he'll probably be gunning for a made cut. Most of these guys down here too, they got a lot of motivation. So, unless a guy's in terrible form, they're probably not a horrible play. Talked about Kelly Craft. Steve talked about Wes Roach. Definitely like the form with those two guys. And Oppenheim didn't make the cut. Oppenheim really performed for me the last time I brought him up. I believe it was the Quicken Loans. He had a super good, T10 at the Quicken Loans. So it's a little bit different course. You have to score a little bit more. I don't love him this week just because the fact that there's the course is a little bit easier. The guy doesn't generally make a ton of birdies. He's not ranked that highly. Birdies are better. So maybe the upside isn't quite as great as for Rob Oppenheim, but he's been playing well. So I mean, at that range, you'd have to put him in sort of the top half of players as far as current form. So he's definitely been playing better than like Brendan Todd and like Roy Sabatini, guys like that. So I know Cabrera is down there too. I mean, another guy who could probably really use a top finish. He started out well last week and then really bombed off, which is pretty much par for the course for Anel Cabrera. But yeah, he's pretty risky. So there's a lot of guys who are just, looking like really risky plays down here. Oppenheim's probably one of the more consistent players down there. Not a guy I want to have a ton of exposure to, but, for a cut maker, he makes sense. So does kind of Wheatcroft. Still like Wes Roach kind of for the upside. And then, like I said, kind of got my eyes on Norlander, Villegas, and don't hate Brad Stegmeyer down there either. He's been playing pretty solidly all year. So there's some scrub value down there this week. The field's weak again. It's a tournament right after a major, so you might see some of these top players kind of bomb out a little bit. Don't be shocked, but usually an event where you see some of those lower players have good weeks. Oh yeah, the other guy I kind of wanted to bring up is Ben Martin has been in good form lately, and this is a guy who can go low. Definitely has the ability to shoot some low scores on a course like Glen Abbey. So Martin played really well at the Barracuda. I believe he was like top 5. Played well again last week. Barbasol, 7,500 looks like a solid price, and he won't be highly owned because Graham Dillette's in that range. So another guy to take note of this week, Ben Martin. Again, you're getting a lot of value, a lot of potential plays in the 7K range this week. You shouldn't have trouble using those top guys. It's just a matter of how risky you want to get, how many guys in the 7K range you want to stuff in, or if you want to fit those top guys in. I mean, I know I was kind of looking if I wanted to go with Day and another top player like Furyk or Kuchar, and then fit like a Roberto Castro in. That's kind of when I was going down to like the Norlander range or the West Roach range, and going from there. So, and that leaves you with the ability to get back up to 7K. So it's a week where you can fit in a lot of those players if you get an even one scrub. So definitely should be an interesting tournament. Yeah. One other guy who I'll throw out there. I know no one's going to use him because he completely bombed last week, but Danny Lee. Dave Kuchar, yeah, Camilo Roach, yeah. I mean that's kind of what I'm looking at. I mean, it's you want to fit in 2 of those expensive guys with a couple of those mid-range solid plays and then round it off. So. And but yeah, before I want to mention, I just want to talk about Danny Lee a bit. The stats have been all over the place with Danny Lee. He has made a lot of cuts in a row, so it's not like he's playing awful. He just had an awful week, and I know I was on his Instagram trying to check out, and he said he played well. He's positive, so 9,100 again. No one's going to own Danny Lee this week coming off that bomb performance. So if you want to go more balanced, if you want to use like Snedeker, Furyk. Throwing Danny Lee in there might not be a bad play either because he's not a guy who goes on long missed cut streaks or who misses a lot of cuts in a row, and he's definitely got the ability. I like Danny Lee as a player. I think if you're looking to get off Grillo this week, we talked about Castro, and don't get me wrong, I like Emiliano Grillo. This guy's a super solid player. If you want to use Grillo this week, just go for it because chances are he's probably going to make the cut and at least semi have a good week. I mean, he's definitely got upside too. So, but if you do want to get off Grillo, because he's probably going to be 25 or 30% owned, you got Castro, you can pay up for Danny Lee, and we like Garrigus too. So, a lot of different ways to go. I think Grillo, Kuchar will be chalky. Summerhays might get a little bit chalky too. Colt Knost probably will be over-owned for me personally. I think otherwise it's going to be spread out because there's a lot of value. So, there's only a couple guys I think you got to think about fading, but there's definitely ways you can swerve off. So, anyways, guys, check me out. My name's Jeff Ulrich. You can check me out at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. You can check out Steve at Fantasy Golf Metrics. Definitely check out those guys on Twitter. They got a lot of good stats. And we'll be back next week. It's another major, so I can't believe it's another major next week, but we'll be back with another nice preview. And thanks for tuning in. Have a good week. Hit me up with any questions the next day or two on Twitter if you got them. But otherwise, we'll talk to you again in a week.